I have friends, people, including one person who spoke in this classroom one time who's been killed in the war in Gaza. So I'm like, this hits home to me. Okay, understand? Like I've been thinking about Israel and the Palestinian conflict since 1982 or 1983.
How much of the news about Gaza is non-biased?
Like none of it. I think something so emotionally charged on both sides, it'll be like impossible to find something non-biased.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that too.
It's interesting that we can talk about Gaza, which is fair. Talk about Gaza and what the Israelis are doing in Gaza, but like no one knows what's happening here in Yemen. Of the three groups, like the two of you, you're the only two people that are associated with the nation state. Like there's no Christian.
Vatican?
Oh, okay, Vatican City. Okay, the Catholic. The Catholic has to remind me. Yeah, Vatican City. Okay, that is a nation state. You are right. Oh my God, that's awesome. All right, so besides that, and so whatever, so you then have, you are seen just automatically as connected to that nation state, even though this is a religion. There are Jewish people all over the world. Does it seem to you like people expect you? How often do you feel like people expect you to identify with Israel just because you're Jewish? When in fact, I don't know. This is a good question for you, Kaylin.
I think it's pretty heavy. Like if you really identify as Jewish, then you're automatically connected to Israel. But I think a misconception is that doesn't mean you're connected to, especially like the war right now.
Yeah.
And different
or
the politics, the politics of it,
Yeah, any more than you're connected to the any more than any American is connected to the politics here of the United States. So do you feel like you're put under kind of a deeper scrutiny than say you're Egyptian and you're Saudi? It's like, okay, nobody says okay, you have to support or you must support some particular nation.
Yeah, I'd say especially back home, I definitely kind of recently kind of rub it under push it under the rug a little bit and don't necessarily flaunt that oh, I'm Jewish and my family's Jewish, because a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say and it's kind of just, that's not in my control, and I don't know why I feel like I get judged for that sometimes.
Yeah, why do you get judged for that? Yeah, no, for sure. Milan, how about you?
I think I have a different approach because...
Yep. Because you're dual citizen.
Yeah, it's if I had to pick a home, it'd be Israel. I would, if I picked somewhere to live, it'd be Israel. Spend the rest of my life, it would be Israel. But I think a misconception is also that Judaism is only a religion.
Yeah.
It's not just a religion. It's also a culture.
Yeah.
It's everything. So to look at someone and say just because you're Jewish because of this, you're Jewish because of a lot of reasons, and there's different ways of being Jewish, whether it's being religious or just secular or conservative in any sense, or you just hang out, you like the food, you like matzo ball soup,
it's the culture.
Yeah, it's the culture of it all. So you don't have to keep Shabbat and do Shabbat or celebrate all the holidays or fast on Yom Kippur or any of the other high holidays. But
40% of American Jews, your age, are just Jewish by culture. They're not religious at all. This would be Trump gets elected here in the United States and all these Americans are oh my God, I gotta leave, but they don't leave. And because they're connected to American culture and their family's here and it's connected, and you have so much family in Israel. So when people's oh, but I have, I would be in Israel if I had to pick. Well, that's because you have so much family there. You know what I mean? If you didn't know it, you're not going to move to Israel. You don't have any family there.
I have more family there than I do here.
Yeah. What do you think? Does that make sense to you? That she would be yeah. Your family's in Saudi, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to live in Saudi, I assume.
Yeah.
Because your family's there.
It's not just that. I feel like I was raised there, and being Saudi is very rich in culture, religion, and I don't think I'd feel more in home than.
Yeah, there's like you wouldn't feel like that's where you feel most at home.
Yeah, especially that like
Yeah.
it's a very religious country.
Yeah,
And so-
totally. And when I've been in Israel myself, and I've been in the West Bank as well, and we used to work in Gaza. So, and by the way, in case anyone's just wondering, if I can just say this, by the way, I have friends, people, including one person who spoke in this classroom one time, who's been killed in the war in Gaza. So I'm like, this hits home to me. Okay, understand? Like I've been thinking about Israel and the Palestinian conflict since 1982 or 1983. So I'm very well versed in what's happening and so on. So I just want to be with everybody in that. But when I was in Israel, I just had this feeling that I have in lots of places where I was like, whoa, if I were Jewish, more than 0.01% that I am, I'd be like, I want to be here. And I have Arab Israeli friends, because 25% of the population is Arab, Christian, and Muslim. I'm like, they're like, that's where they feel at home, you know? So in Israel proper, not talking about the West Bank. So, yeah, so I see that. So have you had up here, like sometimes when you kind of are really, because after October 6th of last year, like in the protest that you're reluctant to say like, yeah, I'm Jewish or I'm Israeli, like.
No.
You don't have that?
No.
Yeah.
I was like, my parents told me, it's who you are, lead with your chest, and if someone doesn't like you, basically like, F them.
Yeah.
Because like you're not supposed to change who you are to make other people happy.
But what would you say to Kaylin? And it's a little different for her.
It is a little different for her, because I grew up in a very predominantly Jewish Israeli immigrant area in like Northeast Philadelphia. So I grew up around like everyone was like Jewish or Israeli around me. Like I went back and forth.
Yeah.
I spent summers there. I have the connection to the land, the people, not more than she does because she's also Jewish, and not more than they do because they're Muslim, and the Dome of the Rock and everything from there, and same with them because everyone has a connection to that land. But I think it was just easier for me because that's how I grew up. She didn't grow up in an area with a lot of Jews.
Yeah.
And I think being instilled in that from a very young age, that like be who you are, it shouldn't matter who you are, that's what got me going.
Salma, how about you? Because did you grow up around near an Egyptian American community or Muslim community?
When I was younger, I think I'd say I was definitely like more connected to that. Like, I guess like elementary school, like I would go to like the Sunday school and I would learn about Islam and stuff like that. But then I guess as like I got older, it kind of like a disconnect, I guess, started happening. But one of my mom's like closest friends is also Egyptian, and they met in America. So it's like I've kind of grown up with like her children. So it's like that's like one part that like I'm constantly surrounded by them, and it's like that's a strong tie for me.
So when you listen to Milan talking, like you really connect to that.
Yeah. And then I think it's like nice to hear like someone feel so prideful about like both like their home country and where they come from, that like makes me happy for them.
And their religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you've been to Egypt?
Yeah, I've been twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once when I was like really young and I like don't remember it at all. And then the second time just this past winter break.
Really fast. I just know quick with you, Milan, for a second. You're also under much greater scrutiny recently about the war and what's happening with Palestinians, and like you have lots of very complex opinions about that.
I do, yes.
Yeah. So like everybody has complex opinions about these matters, and and do you feel like you're allowed to have the complex opinions, or do people want to keep trying to put you in a box? Because I'm just observing how people are putting Jewish people, keep putting Jews inside of a box in the past year and a half or so. You're not allowed. I don't know.
I think it's a lot of watching what you have to say, because I think a lot of things people say come out of anger and out of frustration. And it's I don't hate anyone. I want everyone to be safe. I want everyone to be alive. I want everyone to be healthy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do have friends who are hostages. I do have friends who died. So I can't say
and you are you and I were talking a little bit. You also don't support the violence.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Against civilians. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. So how is that somebody? Does it make sense that here's this person who could support, really struggle with, support her people and her culture in this place that would be her nation, and yet not support the violence that's being committed by the nation? Does that make sense to you?
I mean, we're all human beings, so I wouldn't.
Hold the mic really tight.
We're all human beings, so I wouldn't be I wouldn't attack her, because I don't believe that there are bad people.
Yeah.
But I do believe that people do make bad actions.
Yeah, for sure.
And so
you sound like Joe, the police officer.
do I?
Yeah. Yeah. No, but he would say everybody's good. So everyone's great. No, but this is a good way to be, right? I want to flip the script here. Watch this a little bit, right? You guys, the Muslims and the Christians, right? Especially Saudis, a little less for the Egyptians, right? But what do you know about what's going on in Yemen, for example?
I don't know much.
You don't know?
No.
What do you know, Salma, about what's going on in Yemen?
Yeah, I don't know much either.
Really?
Not much.
In other words, nothing.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Bro.
There's some type of war or conflict going on over there.
Dude, hang on a second.
Okay.
Mark, your son at least knew that, okay, my friend. So you you get points for that. Your dad gets the extra credit points. Okay, there's some type of conflict going on. So there's been a war in Yemen for a long time. They're battling it out, right? Because the nation, it's a relatively new nation, and the nation has been divided for a long time because people are battling over how to draw the lines. And now you've got this, the Americans, okay, and the Saudis have teamed up to fight the radical Islamists, the Houthis. Okay? And the Americans and the Saudis, the Americans are sending a lot of weapons to the Saudis, who are sending the weapons over to the groups, the Yemeni, the government that's fighting against the radical Islamists. Okay? The really radical Islamists. So this is a problem, because, dude, radical Islamists, right? This is good. You got it. In the West, we're going to be, all right, dudes, we got to although when I talk to them or people to support them, they also, I'm I can see what you're fighting for, because what you're fighting for is sociological inequality. But nonetheless, right? So the Americans and Saudi, we're sending billions of dollars of weapons over right now in Yemen, in the war that's been happening right now. There's 5 million Yemenis who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Okay? That's your government, okay? Your government, and your government, because you're American. So you're with these guys right now, right? And your government, 5 million Yemenis who don't know where their next meal is coming from. All right? Another 10 million Yemenis who are living in a very food insecure world. And that's not the hundreds of thousands who have died. A couple years ago, it was identified as one of the greatest famines that the world's ever seen, okay? It's interesting that we can talk about Gaza, which is fair, talk about Gaza and what the Israelis are doing in Gaza, but like no one knows what's happening here in Yemen. And it's really interesting to me to think, wow, there's probably people even in this class who are thinking, Sam's not going to push Milan harder on Israeli policy because, Sam's not going to do that. But it's like, I would, but I don't need to do that right now. But what I need to do is do what I do, which is flip the script a little bit. So I want you to, these four people here who are really their governments, right? Milan's government, because she's American and Israeli, so her government is responsible for what's going on in Gaza, okay? We had a project in Gaza. Like, I worked in Gaza for many, many years. So I want you to ask them a question about the 5 million Yemenis. Do you have a question that you would ask them?
Why don't you know more about it, and why do you think it's not being as televised as like what's happening in Gaza right now?
Let's go with your first question. That was a beautiful question. Why don't you know more about it?
A lot of us probably are like, at least as like people our age, are getting like a lot of our information from social media, and a lot of that's kind of built on like clickbaity titles or like things that'll get views. And Israel-Palestine is just more of like a hot topic right now that people already know about, and so that gets a lot more views versus like Yemen. I guess that's just not something that's as popular right now that people, I guess it's not as good for social media influencers or like the news media to report on.
Yeah, which is unfortunate for 5 million human beings in the world. How about you? What do you think?
I'd say that with a lot of like international conflict,
Hold the mic close, yeah.
it's like hard to keep like tabs on it because like it's not like directly affecting me, and that might sound like shallow, I guess, but it's like, and it's also hard to like not get misinformation and to maybe get something non-biased. So it's like, and I also agree that like the Gaza and Palestine and Jews, that is like the clickbait, like that is like the hot topic. So it's like maybe like stuff about like the Yemenis gets lost because everyone wants to hear about Gaza, everyone wants to hear about that conflict.
Okay, here, I got your next question.
How much of the news about Gaza is non-biased?
Like none of it. I think something so emotionally charged on both sides, it'll be like impossible to find something non-biased.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that too.
The conflict in Gaza, I think it's become the basis of a lot of political arguments recently, especially in like the last election or two, I guess. So I think there's just a lot more spotlight on it, and it's really hard to decipher between, like Fox News posting about it, but making an article, or like CNN making an article. Like it's just become so politicized that it's hard to really get to the truth.
People have this idea that, American young people, like your old generation in particular, like you just lost your minds on this one particular conflict, and you're just really all in on it. And I would say that sometimes that just happens. It just happens. But even here at Penn State, we've had rallies in support of Palestinians, but it's really not that many people show up, really, honestly, which is probably a problem. I wish more people would show up, and more people would show up for Yemen, and more people would show up for conflicts all over the world. But most people are just busy living life, so...
Hi, can I add something?
Yeah.
You've mentioned that Saudi and the U.S. governments are like, causing the conflict, but I feel like there's a main government.
They're not causing the conflict. They're fueling
There
it.
is a conflict, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's another government we're like not adding, which is the Iranian government, who are also like contributing to the Houthi support. And I'd just like to add that Saudi Arabia has, I know the US given humanitarian aid, but I know that Saudi gave up to 1.2 billion in aid and has not blocked any aid from any other country like other countries have done.
No, have. And so with the Saudi government, it's actually a little bit complex, right? Because you're like sending a lot of bombs over and a lot of aid over at the same time.
But the bombs are not directed to the Yemenis. They're not directed to taking any lives.
well-
They're directed to the Iranian supported Houthis.
Yeah. Okay. We can go in different ways on
We
that.
could, but I just wanted to mention that we do give aid.
All right. I'll just accept that. I have a lot of